Wikus, thanks for your time today and thanks for taking the time out to talk to us about mental health and just your own experience and your own story and your own testimony about mental health. So let's dig in. Tell us about your journey about mental health.
Yeah, I'll take you through the story. So I started a new job, and the job triggered childhood trauma that I had that I didn't process. And during my life, I wasn't faced with that ever again. But at that time, in that work environment, it was triggered again. And that triggered anxiety, it triggered depression, and it also triggered some suicidal thoughts. And the root issue of it was bullying at school. And like I said, I was never faced with that specific set of environment where that situation was triggered. But in the work environment, it came out. And the way it manifested physically was I had heart palpitations. I had trouble breathing. It felt as if I had a rock on my chest. Social issues. I withdrew. I couldn't sleep. I was processing the whole time what's happening during the day. So it was really limiting situation where I could find it was a very dark time and a very difficult time. And I knew I had to get help. So, yeah.
Okay, so at what age were you when you were bullied? How old were you?
Oh, it was in primary school, so it was quite young.
Was it most of your school career, or was it just a certain time during your primary school, or what?
Just in primary school.
Primary school, okay.
It was 30 years from that event to the work environment event. So for a long time it was dormant, but it was unprocessed.
Okay. And bullied physically or verbally or what?
Both verbally.
Both verbally and physically.
Yes.
And then for 30 years, basically, there was nothing, no manifestations of that, what happened. And then you moved into a work environment, and then all of a sudden, all of these things came back. Right? Just take us through that. So what happened at work?
Yeah, so it was interesting. It was a male-dominated work environment, where previously it was more female-dominated. And the male-dominated work environment was very competitive, very challenging, and I withdrew. There were problems with, what the bullying did was gave me feelings of rejection, a fear of rejection. It did influence my identity, who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing. And then also the competitiveness. I always shied away from being competitive. I didn't like competitive sports or anything like that. So, and in this work environment, all of those buttons were pushed at the same time.
Sure. And then for how long did this last until you realized that something's wrong? You know, you've something in your mind is not functioning right.
Yeah, so it escalated quite fast. I knew quite fast that there's big trouble, specifically with the physical manifestations of anxiety. I was in fight or flight mode most of the time. One time I physically ran out of the office.
Oh, really?
Because I was so challenged the whole time.
Sure.
And I knew I had to get help.
Okay. And then at that stage when you realized you needed some help, what did you turn to? I know a lot of people don't really turn to professional help or medication, they turn to other things. So take us through that. What happened to you? Where did you go for help?
Yeah, so firstly, my relationship with God is very important. So that was the first place, asking God for help, making sure I'm in community, making sure I'm in church, getting that support from that side, and knowing God is my only anchor, the only help and the only one that I can go to. I also knew that I should get professional help. So one side, I went to a doctor. The doctor prescribed medicine. It was antidepressants. It was something for the heart palpitations, and it was also something for the stomach. So my stomach was clenched the whole time because of the stress and the fight or flight mode. So, but the doctor also said, the medication is only one side of the solution. The other side, you do need psychological help. So you have to go see a counselor or a pastoral psychologist. So I also went to a pastoral psychologist, and that is where I also learned how to identify the triggers, identify the lies that I'm believing, and also how to proclaim the truth about those things. It was a pastoral psychologist, so it was someone who came with a Christian background, And it was wonderful to get those tools, because it's things that you're struggling with for a long time, in terms of identity, in terms of the fear of rejection. And most of the things are rooted in lies that you believe about yourself, lies that you believe about other people. One thing that he showed me as well is how to see warning signs. Now, one of the warning signs is if ever you think in absolutes, I always have to, or I may never, or someone else must always, or someone else may never, you are placing an unrealistic expectation of yourself or an unrealistic expectation of someone else. So showing me those types of things and ways to react differently to stimuli than you previously did. So being aware of what is happening, knowing where it comes from, and then being able to choose a better way to react to it than anxiety or depression.
Sure. And admitting to that. So how old were you? In your 30s, you said?
It was late 30s.
Late 30s. And just admitting to that, did it have any impact on your pride as a man? Because I know a lot of men, me myself, we struggle with admitting that I've got a mental issue. Because we need to be strong, and we need to be the fighters and the leaders. And so what impact did that realization that you've got some anxiety and mental health issues, what impact did that have on you as a man?
So, as I said, I was in a very challenging work environment, and it was also one where I had to prove that I'm man enough to do this job. So it was very difficult for me to make that decision, but it was for me a life-threatening situation. I could lose my life because I had suicide thoughts, and I knew I had to open up, be vulnerable. So I thought about it. There's a difference between being vulnerable and being weak. Being weak would be, I'm not going to open up, I'm not going to talk about it, I'm not going to tell anybody. But that's where pride is. And vulnerability is being open, honest, and being transparent. So the first thing is that I went to the management and said, this is the experience that I'm having. It has nothing to do with you. It has something to do with my background. My reaction to this situation is not because of you, but I want you to be aware of it. And throughout this process, they were so supportive, and also told my family, made sure they were aware of my situation so that they can support me. And that's what happens when you're vulnerable. When you're vulnerable and you're open, you're gonna get the support. When you're not, you're isolated and you're alone.
And coming back to the suicidal thoughts, that's always a tough thing to work through, and just to even think back of it. I've been there myself, luckily only once before. But what would you say? What happened during that time whenever you've had that suicidal thoughts, between not moving into the suicidal to take action in the suicidal or to go for help? Is there anything that happened at that stage in your mind, or what happened?
I was always aware of the consequences, what would happen. And I've known some people who've committed suicide, and I know that there's so much pain that comes as a result of it. And I'm aware of it, that sometimes people are in so much pain that they don't realize or recognize the results or the effects of what would happen if they committed suicide. So it's a very serious issue, and if it's something that you're really worried about, see someone professionally. Like, for instance, the doctor asked me, in your suicidal thoughts, have you ever thought of how you're going to do it? And I could fortunately say, no, I didn't, because that's one of the warning signs. If you thought about the logistics of it, that's a big red light for you.
Okay. And then, because you also mentioned that just the importance of your relationship with the Lord during this time. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So in my life so far, the times that I've had the hardest times were the times that I knew that the Lord was the closest. When you know you can only hold on to Him, when you have nothing else to hold on to, He's the only one. Examples in the Bible, I can see Daniel in the lion's den. The Lord didn't take him out of the lion's den. He protected him in the lion's den. And I can just testify of that. God was with me every moment. The same with 3 people who were thrown into the oven. God didn't take them out of the oven. He protected them inside the oven. He was there with them. There was a fourth person in the oven. So when people go through difficult times, they must be aware of God, know that He's with them. Also spend time in His presence. Make sure you don't isolate yourself, because suicidal thoughts and your isolation makes it very dangerous. You're all on your own. As soon as you involve other people, reach out to other people, you can hear a different voice. You can get a different opinion.
And from the time from your 30s when this physical manifestation started up to now, what has changed? Is it something that's done? Are you completely healed from it? Or is it something that's still being triggered in your life? Or you're still on medication? Where are you currently now after 10 plus years?
No, I'm so thankful that was only a season in my life. So before that, I never struggled with depression, with anxiety, any of those things. It was that season of my life, and I feel as if the Lord also took me through it. I learned lessons. I became stronger. I got tools to see, to recognize the signs. And in this situation where I am now, I can just say the Lord turned around my situation completely. I've got a new job in a new environment. The Lord is so good to me. I can see His provision, His faithfulness. And but I also know there is a reality that some people are struggling with it long term, and that it is a recurring issue. And we have to understand that some people have a harder time.
And Wikus, just thanks for sharing. And maybe as a closing, you mentioned that you learned a lot during that stage, obviously from yourself and from your relationship with the Lord. Just share with us some of those things that you've learned during those dark times.
Yeah. So the most important thing is your relationship with God. Practical things is, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling isolated, get out. Go somewhere, get sunlight, listen to good music, eat good food, spend good time with people, to enjoy life. Because the Lord died so that we could have life in abundance. And we should really take hold of that. Also to not be self-centered. It's very often so easy to just think about yourself, to think of what you need, of in what situation you are, but reach out. Look outward, reach out to other people, and also, if you see other people going through the same thing, help them. Because that also helps you. It helps you grow, it helps you out of your situation, but only focusing on yourself, thinking about yourself.
And when you went through this, has it made it any easier for you to identify this in other people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I've been through it, I can see if someone is going through a difficult time, if someone has I can see the signs. And so I have a responsibility as well.
To reach out to those men and to reach out to those people. Because any last thoughts from you? Anything that you want to share? Anything that's on your heart regarding mental health that you want to share with other men?
Yeah, so the parable of the Good Samaritan comes to me. God didn't just heal the person by the side of the road. He sent someone. And just like that, He will send people to you if you need help. And sometimes you will be that person who has to go and help someone else. Be a brother. Reach out. Be open, honest, and transparent.
Sure, Wikus, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been such a powerful story, and I've just been so blessed by this, and I'm sure that many men will benefit from your testimony. Thanks, Wikus.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Johan, for the good work you're doing.
All right. Thanks, Wikus. Bye-bye.